A new ban list and shifting format significantly increases the probability of seeing those how to beat or best side deck cards postings from various Yu-Gi-Oh players and commenters. Unfortunately, most of these discussions are rather stale, one note, and boring, where the focus is centered around common hand traps, kaijus, and other obvious floodgate cards that have been running side decks or main decks for years at a consistent rate. Basically, these discussions lack insight relative to the actual new format or new Tier 1 decks. The discussion could have been for formats 2 years ago versus the format right now. Just run kaijus, run hand traps, run floodgates. Obviously, there is a reason for these choices. These humdrum choices are good choices. But if one is just going to repeat 95+% of the discussion from 5 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, one wonders what's the point of making the new video in the first place? Obviously, the sarcastic mindset is, oh, you just want to get views. Well, in this discussion, I'm going to talk about three cards that are not commonly talked about that can influence the game in a meaningful way. Overall, one of the focuses of this discussion is cards that can be utilized when going second that are not kaijus or hand traps, because most counter cards that a lot of people cite really are only useful for going first. And you're kind of out of luck if you're going second and the opponent has already set up his or her board. The first card is one I have always had a soft spot for, but has had a hard time finding a place in the game ever since the vomit board mentality hit the game, and hand traps and kaiju like cards took over the defensive counter role. However, ironically, with the rise of nightmares and its associated opponent play stopper Ibli, this card may finally have a side deck breakthrough moment. The card, Creature Swap. Under normal circumstances, Ibli is a rather effective lockdown card, preventing the special summons of all non-link monsters, as well as its level 2 standing, preventing cheaply swapping it out for a card like Link Karibo. Removing Ibli is actually rather annoying, unless the Ibli controlling player is packing a Creature Swap. Swap the Ibli for more than likely a high range Link monster, and not only have you removed the lockdown card in Ibli, but you have snatched a quality Link monster that can be used to jumpstart your counterplays, as well as probably broken an extra Link lockdown. Overall, Well Creature Swap really shines when you know your opponent is packing the Ibli strategy because they give you the monster you're going to give right back to the opponent. Even outside this strategy, Creature Swap has become a rather nasty side deck choice in general, for when they go first, they're not dropping garbage monsters. So anything you trade is typically going to be a plus for you from a standpoint of how the board will change. Finally, in my opinion, in the era of Link monsters, Creature Swap has always been one of the better side deck choices for the mirror match when going second. The second card is one most players should be familiar with because while it had little fanfare when first arriving on the scene, a certain deck locked onto it and has taken advantage of its non targeting, non destruction based removal ability ever since. The deck, Trickstar. The card, Eater of Millions. Overall, I'm always surprised on how little I see Eater of Millions in side decks. Yes, it needs to actually attack to apply its non-targeting, non-destruction removal ability, though some players probably recoil at such Neanderthalism, but a level 1 monster that can remove any threat affected by monster effects that can be summoned for relatively free. The 5 extra deck monsters is typically not important for a vast majority of decks, and if necessary, Eater can be used in a Link summons. Link Karibo comes to mind, or even a Link summons without bothering attacking, as using Eater as a free monster during main phase 1. Overall, Eater and its ability to break non-Nightmare Griffin-led extra linking lock boards is quite effective, and Heck, it could just be used to jumpstart link plays due to that quasi-free summon. Overall, I feel Eater of Millions should see much more side deck play in a variety of decks. The third card is one that I was a little surprised never really got into the side deck minting or side deck staple type of aspect in Gradle Eagle, a monster that can steal an opponent's monster that can be targeted when it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by battle or monster effect. Eagle is a great psychological card for the opponent, as he or she may concern themselves with saving a negate for Eagle, allowing the player to continue with his or her other plays. Or Eagle could just be a nasty surprise for the opponent after he has used their negation or interruption on things that they thought were going to be the real threat, and then, oh, there's that Eagle, they just lost a critical monster. Overall, I guess Gradles just came out during the wrong time in Yu-Gi-Oh, where anti-targeting or targeting resistance was all the rage with Cosmos and Magispectors, and then any type of renaissance was smothered by the emergence of Spirals and their anti-targeting shenanigans. However, with more ways than ever to special summon monsters from the deck, Summon Sorceress is going to come along, or hand various link monsters, the the versatility of Eagle may be at an all-time high. Incidentally, I'm rather surprised that a deck like Mech Knights never latched on to various Gradle techs due to all of their special summoning. They tend to have this gap in normal summon. They went the invoked route. I wonder what would have happened had they gone the Gradle route. Finally, it is worth mentioning that in the original version of this list, which I first thought about a month ago when the format was just starting to change, Phantom Skyblaster was going to be on it. But as anyone can really see who's been paying attention, Skyblaster has become too popular, in my opinion, to be viewed as a somewhat forgotten quality side deck card. But it is still worth noting that Skyblaster is definitely a nice substitute for Scapegoat in Link Summon, for while it is a little weaker on the token summoning, it is a turn faster and first turn ready. Overall, Skyblaster is definitely a solid side deck card, for its abilities are enhanced from a strategic standpoint when understanding the type of deck the opponent is using, and it can be effective going first or second. Those are some of my more interesting side deck choices one can play over the coming format that are not of the old guard, consisting of various hand traps, kaijus, or floodgates, which, with some creativity in deck design, can actually produce some unique and interesting results to augment victory. Well, that's that. Thank you for your attention and your time. I'm out.